Have you ever stopped to think about how you actually think? I mean, what's really going on under the hood when you make a snap judgment or have a gut feeling? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on our own minds, using the absolutely groundbreaking work of Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman as our guide. All right, to kick things off, let's try a little puzzle. Take a look at the question on the screen. Now, don't try to solve it with a calculator. Just go with the very first answer that pops into your head. Ready? So what did you get? If you're like, well, pretty much everyone, an answer probably jumped into your mind almost instantly. And I'm willing to bet that answer was 10 cents. Now, that answer feels right, doesn't it? It's simple, it's intuitive, but it's wrong. Think about it. If the ball was 10 cents, the bat would be $1.10 for a total of $1.20. The actual answer is 5 cents. That little mistake you just made, that's not a sign you're bad at math. No, what it does is perfectly reveal that our minds are basically run by two completely different characters, two distinct systems of thinking. So let's meet the cast. First, you've got System 1. This is the star of the show. It's fast, it's automatic, it's that intuitive voice that just shouted 10 cents. It runs on instinct, and it's always on. And then you've got System 2. This is our slow, deliberate, analytical thinker. It's the part of your brain that can do the math, but honestly, it's kind of lazy. It would much rather just go with whatever System 1 says to save some energy. And here's the real kicker. We all like to think we're rational, logical beings, that we're run by our System 2. But as Kahneman shows, the reality is that the automatic, impulsive System 1 is secretly pulling the strings, whispering in System 2's ear and shaping almost every single choice we make. So what happens when our fast-thinking System 1 gets it wrong and our lazy System 2 just doesn't bother to check the work? Well, you get these predictable patterns of error, these mental glitches that psychologists call cognitive biases. Let's look at a couple of the big ones. First up is a huge one, the anchoring bias. This is our brain's weird tendency to just latch on to the very first piece of information we hear. That first number becomes an anchor that drags all of our later judgments towards it, even if it's completely random. Let me show you what I mean. Here's a question Kahneman actually used in his research. Was Gandhi more or less than 144 years old when he died? Now, go ahead and guess his actual age of death. Okay, obviously the number 144 is completely absurd. Your System 2 knows that. But here's the crazy part. That anchor still works. Just by hearing that ridiculously high number, your estimate of his age was likely pulled way up. People who hear this question guess a much higher age than people who are anchored to a lower number. By the way, the answer is 78. And believe me, this isn't just a fun little trivia game. It has serious, real-world consequences. Check this out. In one incredible study, experienced German judges had to sentence a shoplifter right after rolling a pair of dice. The judges who rolled a high number gave, on average, a significantly longer prison sentence than those who rolled a low number. Think about that. Their professional judgment was anchored by a totally random roll of the dice. Okay, let's move on to our next mental shortcut. It's called the availability heuristic. And the rule here is super simple. If your brain can think of an example of something easily, it assumes that thing is really common or important. This explains so much about our modern fears. Think about it. Plane crashes are terrifying, vivid, they get endless news coverage. They're very available in our minds. Car accidents, they happen all the time, but they're not dramatic news. So our System 1 concludes that flying is a bigger risk, even though statistically it's far safer. What's easy to remember just feels more true. Now, these two systems don't just affect what we think, they completely control how we feel about risk, about winning, and especially about losing. This brings us to what might be Kahneman's most famous idea, the one that won him the Nobel Prize, prospect theory. The core of the theory is incredibly simple, but it will change the way you see the world. It all boils down to this. For human beings, losses loom much, much larger than gains. So here's the bottom line. The psychological sting of losing $100 is roughly twice as powerful as the pleasure you'd get from finding $100. This is called loss aversion, and it makes us all irrationally cautious. We'll often turn down really good bets just to avoid the tiny possibility of feeling that painful sting of a loss. So, what on earth are we supposed to do about all this? We can't just turn off System 1, it's always running. Well, understanding how these systems work is kind of like getting the user manual for your own brain. It lets us think smarter, not just harder. So let's just boil it down to the essentials. First, and this is a big one, you have to accept that your brain is not the perfectly rational machine you think it is. Second, recognize that most of your choices are made on autopilot. Third, know that these biases get everybody, even the experts. And finally, the best tool you have to fight back is simply to slow down. Force yourself to engage that lazy system too. Look, the goal isn't to second guess every single gut feeling you have. That would be absolutely exhausting. The real skill, as Kahneman points out, is learning to recognize the types of situations where our intuition is most likely to lead us astray, especially when the stakes are high. That's when you have to consciously hit the brakes and think things through. So, I want to leave you with this question. Now that you know about the two characters living in your head, that fast, impulsive hero and the lazy but powerful sidekick, what will you do differently the next time you have to make a big decision?